and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. So hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers and all you family of light out there. So it's such a beautiful day, and I wanted to record a video for all of us today talking about what really makes us living in the new, and are we truly living in the new and in the new energy. So I had to actually climb quite a bit in normal shoes. I don't have my hiking shoes on today. I came to this blessed sacred waterfall spot today, first time this year. You know, the winter was quite long. And I actually came to bless the new aura sprays. I made Ascension crystal aura sprays. I'm going to talk about them at the end. And I actually came to bless them here at this spot. Was blessing them through the sacred purity of the white light of creation, the white ray of creation, and of course the family of light of Elohim, the sacred holy breath of spirit, and the elementals, the fairy realms here. And it was just really this beautiful purification essence that I felt. I just was breathing consciously. I'm going to show you a very simple breathing exercise you can do if you want to really get more advanced work of life force cultivation and mastery, which is really becoming so essential at this time. I advise you to take my Tantrical Life Force Mastery course, or of course the new one, the last culmination course called the Cosmic Union Ascension, because Ascension truly is not just a personal or collective, but it truly is a cosmic experience and a beautiful blossoming or unfolding journey of creation. I also want to remind you there's something else that's new, is I've created a new MP3 mini audiobook, and it's about the creation story and the creation rays, because I notice a lot of confusion coming through, you know, the classification of what are the primary creation rays and what are the so-called indigo, crystal, rainbow rays that sometimes we talk about, the crystal or rainbow children, or the indigo kids, or the indigo generation, or people talk about the blue ray. And I was tuning into how much there's many similarities when people share, let's say, videos or writings about these traits of these rays, and then people can get easily confused. And I wanted to really bring forth this deepened knowledge about the primary rays of creation, the secondary extended rays, upon which are higher galactic rays that were created at the group soul level. And if you want to have a deepened creation experience, I was writing it almost 2 hours yesterday. The second portion, I created a first portion about the creation story a while ago, and it just felt complete at this point, this simple, beautiful, pure truth. Because when I tune into the Elohim wisdom through creation principles, the wisdom coming through is always so natural. It's so organic. It's just so simple. It's simplified, and it makes complete sense because there's a lot of information in the New Age world, and a lot of people talking about different things. And I'm not saying they're wrong. It's just a deeper approach that synthesizes all of what we know as these traits and these experiences, and have a deeper impact on our soul understanding, and why we as volunteer souls here specifically are working with these higher rays of consciousness that are now ready to anchor themselves on this planet, because the planet has created a sacred rite of passage for itself, or a sacred invitation for this divine dispensation of light to take place, so that there can be seeding. So, okay, since I'm talking about this new audiobook, which you can get at the link down below, I also want to mention these aura sprays. I only made 5, but I already gave one away, or sold one. I actually was guided to make this as I was creating a gift for a birthday present for my sacred sister of light. And I was just doing it randomly, and then I did one for myself. And then I had this vision of deep attunements, because as you know, everything we create has an aura around itself. It's not just we as beings, or the elementals of the trees, or, you know, things of nature, the flora, the fauna has aura, but also the things we create have a certain aura around them. So recently someone made a beautiful feedback response for my services, and I was just so deeply moved and touched, because the person actually said to me that from everything I shared, all the knowledge and activations, what most resonates with the being is my love, that they felt so deeply, this love aspect. So I wanted to pour this love, which I always do in all my creations. I wanted to channel it into these aura sprays, and I only made a few because I wanted to test them out first, wanted to try them out. I wanted to create them attuned to what I represent as the embodiment of the white ray of creation. And white ray, I was just recently, again, because I was really scanning through all this information, the blue rays, the indigos and crystals and what is what, and I asked, okay, so if all these rays have a mission together, if they're actually a brotherhood of all these rays that are creating a new platform on this planet at this time, so what is the mission particularly of the white ray? And I have to tell you, I was just walking on my beach and I had this profound inner resonance, and I felt very simple words. It was just the basic understanding, and it was that simple. And the words were, it's very simple. The whites create the new template through the synthesis of what was. The whites gather, the whites synthesize. That's what we observe a lot. We're like sponges. We observe a lot. We observe people. We observe people's behavior. We are, even when we're withdrawn, we just take in energies. And from that understanding of that crystallized wisdom, which is the truth of all the crystalline realms, where all these higher rays are actually emanating from, for this higher purposes of service, of expansion, evolution of life. So I was actually shown that the whites established the new platform we're building, and that's why we're called creation pillars, because the creation pillar is a foundational essence of the white rays. So I've shared a video a while ago about the mission of the creation pillar. Just recently someone asked me about this again. And it's a very deepened journey of understanding. And when you look at it, that within each ray, everyone is birthed uniquely through their soul essence. They serve a uniqueness of creation's essence at that, how do I say and express it, of that expression of life that moves through that ray, and the energy travels through that ray of expression. So when I created these sprays, I wanted them to have this essence of the white rays, so basically an aura around them. So it came out very simple because I'm not as you know, I'm not a manufacturer. I create things organically, and if I provide something, I'm guided. Sometimes it's just for a few people, sometimes it's for no one, sometimes it's just created for fun, sometimes people will get it later, sometimes no one gets it. It's very much, I trust the process because it's all tuned in, and we can't do our creations in terms of conditionality, and this is again going to be a topic today. So it came out like this kind of, if you notice, this lace patterning, it kind of makes it very much aligned with the crystalline bats I created a while ago, and I'm still making them. These bats attune your whole body to this crystalline frequency or the crystalline realms, and it helps you to create a synthesis of your light body with the physical body, which is what we're doing. So it's called Ascension Crystal Aura Spray. It has a little angel on it, and basically it has crystals inside. I'm not sure if the camera zooms in properly. When you tune into the webpage link down below, you will see a picture, a description in depth. I just wanted to show one. I actually took them here to bless them, to anoint them with the slide of, because I call this place my creation spot. It's kind of dangerous because the rocks are falling down, and there's a lot of snow melting right now due to warm weather. So what we're having is so much rocks falling down due to all this precipitation and all the water and all the moist and the rocks. So I came there, I sat for a few minutes, and the rocks started to fall. I kind of escaped. So I went here in this hill that's overlooking this beautiful waterfall gorge. I actually felt called, and I actually imbued these sprays with the breath of life so that they have an aura around them. So it's not just the physical essence that's within them, but what they actually contain is natural found crystals. Just recently we had another trip to the crystal cave here in the Alps. It's not where I live, it's just a little while away, and it also is the region in the Alps. It has calcite crystals. It's the area in front of the cave. You can read that again in my crystal page section. And I actually put crystals at the bottom so that this is constantly being charged with this white ray essence and what I imbued in these sprays. And unfortunately I only have 4 left for the first batch if some of you want to get them. So do let me know, do check that link. It's a limited edition for now. I hope I would be making more. I would really love to do that because I just love doing these things of crystalline frequency, the crystalline being. So what's inside also is Himalayan salt, because the salt really cleanses the aura. You have mountain spring water. It's the water collected here. It's a little bit of the rose water as well. And then you have some essential oils. Don't use alcohol. That's why whatever you use the spray, you got to do like this. But the essences really penetrate through the water. So it's not just what we see as this fusion. So what I love it is that these oils created this coating here at the top and looks golden. I'm like, why is it golden? I love it because it's like golden white. That's my frequency. And you know, the overlighting master, Serapis Bey, and the Seraphim, who are creation angels as well. So I don't know, I'm just so excited. And I tried, they're working. You know, I bought these glass bottles. They're quite expensive. I don't know why, because I wanted to have them the white one, not the black one, and these were more expensive. But I said, you know what, we deserve that. It has to be the right frequency. So today they received the final blessing. I'm really excited. Okay, so you can find these on my page. So besides that and the new audiobook, I want to share with you this topic today, which is how to really know we're living in the new. So the first thing I wish to talk about here is, we always talk about the new energy. There's new energy coming, new energy. And I recently found these videos from a woman who entitled her video, "There is no new energy." And I really didn't watch the video, but in a way, it's interesting because it's true and yet it isn't. So from the level of source, from the perspective of source, this zero, or the quantum field where energy is constantly, simply is. There is no energy at the level of source. It's when we burst out into creation, we start to generate energy. So the energy travels through the rays of creation. That's how all things come to life, into being. At the level of source, and from certain levels of, let's call it crystalline frequency, you would say the energy always is, because source always is. So there is no new energy. But from the level of creation, which is constantly expanding, so you would look at the nature of the universe, we say the universe is expanding because the universe is also an aspect, a physical creation. We say, well, there's an implosion, an explosion of light occurring simultaneously. So from that vantage point of creation, there is new energy, but it's the new experience within a certain frame of energy when we open up to more and more, let's say, multidimensionality and hyperpotentiality. So a lot of beings are now opening to higher dimensional possibilities. We're waking up to options that we didn't have before. And I want to say that one of the things that really is, in a way, a precipice between the old and the new is, you know, when people like to compare, and they would say, well, this person isn't doing anything. They're always just doing art and airy-fairy things and creating products, and, you know, like, you know, they would say, oh, they're just sharing wisdom, and they're not doing anything substantial or physical. Because these people, let's say, they're coming from the perspective of the third dimensional structure or density. There's a density expression of the living formation experience within a realm of what we would call the third dimension, which is, again, within the third dimension, we have different densities of experience according to the level of awareness and evolution of our unique beings. So these beings who are operating, let's say, from a denser perspective would look at those who are vibrating higher, and they would say, well, these are airy-fairy people, or these people are doing these things, but they're not really doing, they're not working. So people would complain, and they say, these people never work. It's because from their vantage point, reality in life is hard, and you have to work for a living. They are trapped into or conditioned or imbued within a matrix system that tells them that work to money or to even survive, which is this survival consciousness, is essential, and it's just how it is. But that's basically a program of non-really benevolent ET races, and we know one of them as reptilian race that actually created the slave system, and they always need the slave race. If they don't have it, they're not going to have what is the result of it, and this is manual labor. And a lot of the things that they're actually perpetuating is these programs coming through these systems of wanting to be in control, not just the governmental systems, but much more. And simultaneously, there is this higher benevolent perspective, which is the cosmic ascension union and service to all life, in which we know that everything is work, and yet nothing is work, and everything is pure creation. So whatever you're creating, when you're creating it through love, which is the essence of fifth density and beyond. And beyond that, it just gets higher, and there's different levels of, as you know, the sixth density is again a different experience, and we know it as the pure light body formation and the sacred geometry, and these patterns, cosmometric patterns of light. So again, living in the new is not comparing the experiences of what we see them to be, but being so deeply anchored in our experience that we know that for us, there is where we are, and there is yet also something that is always new. I've just recently watched a video from David Wilcock. It was a lecture on the Tibetans, the Buddhistic, I think the Buddhic monks, and the rainbow body teachings, and how these different ET beings came and influenced their perception of their reality and gave them these teachings. So they were beings who weren't really human. They were humanoids, but they were not human. And these beings could manipulate matter, and they left footprints and fingerprints, and the hands weren't really with 5 fingers, they were 6 fingers, and so goes for the feet. And they were kind of different, but they were trying to share these higher teachings that again are a spectrum once your consciousness travels and expands to that dimensional experience or structure or formation of life. So to live in the new means that a lot of the things that we know also from the scriptures, which is something that was very highlighted through spirits to me recently, because I've read on Facebook, someone wrote an article about something that's written, I don't know in which Vedas or scriptures in India, but they also, you know, were influenced by extraterrestrial civilizations. It's how it was. All civilizations had a primary source of influence, and then other complementary or co-creational aspects that maybe came later, or sometimes there were a mix of them or a variety of them. But nonetheless, they left a certain teaching for humanity that was developing evolutionary at that cycle or at that level where they were currently at. So it's not really living in the new when we take those teachings as sacred and holy. And it's always like this, because someone recently shared something about milk and how cows are sacred animals, and the baby can only develop their brain, you know, operational abilities by drinking cow's milk. And I was reading that, I'm like, okay, I don't know who said that, I don't know where that was written in which whatever kind of books or scriptures. It still doesn't feel new to me. And a lot of Indian people, although they have very much potential for evolution because they value spirituality so much and not so much this you know, kind of Western way of living, although it also has especially huge westernized influence at this time, India as well. But let's take it as an example that they're very imbued in their teachings. And of course, the same goes with the Bible people and the Christians and all of that. They all have their source of teachings. But what is missing is the unifying perspective that takes the human being through the organic connection, which is now. It's always in the now. So it's the template that perhaps was shared or established during a certain timeline. But then with the wisdom of the creation pillar, which is that consciousness through which the higher self of each operational soul, which, as you know, higher self serves as a link between the soul and the physical personality, as we're embodying more and more of our soul aspects and making this unified fusion known as physical ascension. There was, how to say this, I don't know where I left, but I wanted to say that it's very important to understand that this has to be through the higher self, always coming in the now. And if we're somewhere in the past, even with our scriptures, and we're not taking certain aspects that resonate, but then see where we are as a humanity, as a collective right now, what we need to establish at this point. And some astrologers would look at the cycles that come, and even then it's not a cycle that's always round and circle, but it comes up a notch. It creates a spiral. So for us to move into this spiral consciousness, again, we have to embrace the divine feminine principle, which is what we're doing now, especially this year when it's really being anchored into the strata of our planet, is that this natural organic wisdom for each new now moment, through which you understand that there is no such thing as new energy. All energy always is just shaping form, but there is always a new experience within a concept of what we perceive as energy, because we're shifting in density and vibrational. So there is truth in that saying there is no new energy, and yet there isn't. So it depends from which perspective you're looking at that statement. And we should never see things as black and white. So to live in the new means we no longer take things, right, as black and white. We look at the essence of what's behind it. So whatever you're doing, whether you're doing it with the new consciousness or not. And recently I was also sharing about yoga. And how I do yoga is in each new moment I have to be with my body, which is always shifting in each moment. And sometimes I need this, then I need that. And there is a huge difference between a devotion and practice and a routine. A routine is like cycle, right? A circle. And then devotion and expanding in that devotion is a spiral. So even in that wisdom teaching I watched from David Wilcock about basically he piled up all the information. What an amazing guy. He knows so much. He piles up all and just shares. It just culminates with that. And he also said that they also, and the Tibetan monks, have this wisdom teaching about that there's always new teachings coming in, that there's always this need for expansion, there's always going to be something new, and I really highly resonate with that. And just recently someone told me, well, out of all religions, Buddhism is the closest to that principle of life, which is continuously expanding. But what we do a lot of times is we say enlightenment can only be achieved this way, or yoga is that way, or you have to do these exercises to become enlightened, or to stimulate or activate your body. And this is the old construct and the old principle, because whenever someone tells you that, they're not living in this new organic energy and this flow. So we have to start replacing the words such as routine, the established, the ancient. Yeah, the ancient is the basis, but then how do we super expand upon that ancient and make it the new ancient, the new now, the new teachings, right? And one very important thing, which also recently Spirit showed me about embracing more and more of new consciousness, is replacing this prospect of perfectionism, of being perfect, of doing things just the right way or perfectly. The same goes with Ascension, right? I have to do these exercises, it has to be like that, and it's a serious approach. And just simply replace the word or the pattern of this perception of perfectionism, of doing things right, or pleasing someone or something, or thinking we need to do something right, and replacing that perfectionism with the word organic. So by saying, oh, I don't need to do things the right way or the perfect way, but it's very important for me to do it organically in alignment with where I am now. And this is basically the only true foundation of the new energy, that you are always centered in your vortex, in your sacred space. And when I do yoga myself, it's always different. And yet I have exercises that nourish me in my body. But sometimes my yoga, because yoga is not bound to physical exercises alone, and you know that, those of you who practice true yoga, yoga is union, it's cosmic union, it's cosmic bliss, and all else, like physical shape and feeling good or reaching a certain level of well-being is a byproduct of that. But in truth, it's bringing more and more of that light quotient and life force translation in the body for the optimum receptivity of that, so that the magnetic and electric forces, what I already explained in my videos, can co-create as one, so that the divine masculine is electricity, divine feminine is magnetism. They can coexist and co-create as one, because if they're not equally in this harmonized proportion, there's always going to be challenges, including, especially in our body, actually. So I wanted to say that it's very important that yoga means to you your unique approach to union, so that the soul and the body be one, that the spirit can really descend through the column of white light, or the ascension column, the ascension pillar, whatever you call it, doesn't matter, even if you call it I am, just the I am. So it's becoming so important to understand that whatever we were shown or gifted, all the wisdom, all the teachings, it all served their purpose and became crystallized wisdom. But what we do at the level of creation of souls, and this was again beautifully super expanded upon in my Creation Story and Creation Rays audiobook, is life from that vantage point of wisdom, which keeps on growing. Then from that constant growth, expansion of cosmic wisdom, and remember, each soul has wisdom at a certain level. It's not like you have it, they don't. It doesn't exist. So from that vantage point or perspective, wisdom super expands upon itself, and it creates new variables of life for us to experience. So when you see that, you no longer see things as black and white. You will see the traversing spirals in different dimensionalities of life and experience, and different beings experiencing that uniquely. So even what we call the dark or the negative has a role to play, and it has something to contribute to that collective wisdom. And then we take that crystallized wisdom and we super expand life from it. So within each cycle, we kind of like birth again, we birth anew. That's how I see creation, that's how Spirit shows it to me. And this is what Elohim has been sharing in this automatic writing with me that I've shared with you in that book. And it's very, very simple. It's very blissful when you lose that pressure of that conditioning of how it needs to be, even when things happen in your own body that don't seem perfect. Like, you know, when I had my recent hair loss, I still have a little bit in the back. And sometimes I go like, oh, you know, why? And you want the answers, you want the black and white, and you want to understand everything, but we're more and more pushed into that, and each dimensional scope of what you're tuning into multidimensionally, the truth will vary. And it's not one answer. Okay, you've lost hair because of that, period, that's the only reason. We're tuning into that multidimensionality where different aspects are actually blending in together, and there is a fusion of many different factors which are interdependent upon themselves, and they interact. And because of that fusion, we're no longer just this bipolar being. We are an open facet to all experiences, and when we just let go and we trust the body, because remember, my mastery course about mastering divine trust was all about trust spirit, trust life. So that vertical trust, trust becoming the horizontal essence of trust in the physical. And for a lot of us, the physical density, or the dense physical human bodies, which we said, oh, they're so gross, you know, in the way they are, they haven't always been easy. But a lot of us have to learn to imbue ourselves with this aspect of life, which is this letting go. And it's not always that this wisdom will be found in something very ancient or very metaphysical even, or very illumined or enlightened. Sometimes it will be something very practical and simple. And the new wisdom, the new living in the now, is that fusion of everything that ever was and what we're opening ourselves to now in the new. So that for me truly means living in the new consciousness. I wanted to share a bit about a bit of that with you, and I want to read you a beautiful foreword from this book. I'm reading the third one from the trilogy. Again, it's The Eye of Centaur, The Eye of the Centaur from Barbara Handclough, A Visionary Guide into Past Lives. This is actually the first part of the trilogy. I read both too, but the first one I left to read last. That's just how I read them. I didn't have time much to read lately because it had so many projects to finish and complete, so I'm reading that now. But I actually really, really loved the foreword, which was beautifully blended in with the whole metaphysical experience, you know, because the past life regression or hypnosis work is very much metaphysical and mysterious. But there was a physicist, Brian Swim, who shared a foreword, and I want to read you this because he actually spoke about those particles or photons that carry that light or as information, and how that is always there, and yet when we open up to these new aspects. And I think this very much sums up what I wanted to share in this video today with you. So because he's a physicist, he said, I need to report what I regard as the central scientific discovery of the 20th century. I'm referring to the discovery of cosmic background radiation. Scientists interpret this radiation, these photons, in the microwave region of the electromagnetic spectrum as the last light from the primeval fireball, sorry, tongue-tied. Maybe I have a fireball in my mouth, I don't know. So much energy here. So from the primeval fireball at the beginning of time, 18 billion years ago. That's what they say. But we don't know truly. So we are so accustomed to such vast statements coming out of the sciences that we need to pause a moment and wonder about this. Indeed, for the first time in all of modern science, astrophysics have claimed in full confidence that we can now see the actual beginnings of the whole universe. What needs emphasis here is the fact that these lowly photons arrive soaked in news. These photons, invisible to the eye, carry a story. Certainly, it is not an easy story to read, requiring much stringent training on the part of the scientists. But the photons arrive and tell us something wondrous, speak to us of the birth of the universe in a vast fiery explosion. Thus, we need to break free of our old habit of thinking of photons as just physical. At the very least, we need to regard them as informed, for they come shaped by information that a heightened sensibility can respond to. The light from the beginning of time comes bearing news. That is the first step, seeing matter as more than just physical. See the difference between matter and physical as an aspect of matter. But the second step involves seeing this information as activated. When these photons arrive and the scientific sensitivity is there, the news is spoken forth. What are the scientists experiencing and feeling? They're experiencing the realization that the past has come alive in and through them. The photons by themselves would say nothing. It is only through the scientist's awareness that the past can live again, now in a new form. The light from the primeval fireball suddenly lights up in human awareness. You know, illumination. But wouldn't information be lost over eons of time? Wouldn't what was once crisp and fresh slowly become worn out and diffuse, all but totally eroded? So he's talking about, you know, when you receive a package of information of lie during a past life regression or hypnotic work, how are you accessing that as it is happening now? And this is what these beings who are entering such states, they're experiencing right as it was happening now. So doesn't it lose, right? That wouldn't the sort of crystal sharp presentation of consciousness such as we find here in this book be impossible? On this point too, contemporary science has a suggestive discovery, the soliton. The soliton, the polytron should be, no, this is the solitron. Soliton is an extraordinary phenomenon. This particular wave packet of energy does not die out. No matter how far it has traveled from its source point, it remains as sharply defined as if it were freshly formed. Contemporary physics contemplates a universe in which the past permeates the present, a past that can be evoked into a new form. That is, science offers a different world from the Newtonian universe where bits of matter were swirling about each other in the great dead void. It's probably not that void, it's full of consciousness. We may have to accustom ourselves to living in a universe where all that has gone before swirls in and through everything existing in the present. This is exactly what I've been talking about. The ancient is a template, but we're in this now. The new now is always being rewritten. So we're not only news from the beginning of time, not only news of the vertebrae eye, but news from every drop of experience floods us silently, invisibly, just as the cosmic background radiation. Not only do we entertain the idea of a universe as a realm that cherishes all experience of the past, we must also wonder about the possibility that each and every drop of experience has an eternal dimension, and that is so right. Such are the musings of a physicist confronted by this remarkable book. But enough of my scientific speculations. Enter this world yourself. The past comes alive here and teaches us life in the present, and time is no longer a single strand stretched out and forbidding, but is rather a vast spaciousness all are invited to explore. Well, isn't that a physicist so deeply, beautifully spiritual and open and awake? I love that. This is why I wanted to show you, because it's such a beautiful representation of that merge of physicality with life. And I love that he says, seeing matter not just as physical. There's many levels of density, which we would say matter. But the physical is one aspect of life to it. So that's why when we say, well, that being is not doing anything, you don't know, because you're not seeing what they're doing. You're only seeing the visible spectrum from the perspective of your consciousness. And some people have a very minimum level of consciousness they're actually tuning into, and all they see is the little closed up space they were manipulated into. They actually accept it as the only reality, and they can't see very much from there, right? Because light can't enter into once you close the door. So to truly live in the new, I think it's very essential to say, observe yourself every day. Witness yourself every day, not just observe. Observation is one thing. You might observe patterns arising and things coming up, and you know, through conscious relating experiences and all and whatnot. But then witnessing yourself is an aspect that comes, you know, as a part of when you create a space of observation. There's a witnessing, and witnessing can only come through pure acceptance, pure allowance, and pure non-resistance. And a beautiful, helpful tool, which is an inner spirit technology we all have, is Life Force Mastery. And this is why my work is taking me more and more in that direction. And I've shared so much of that with you already. So if you're guided, please just take a look at my courses if you want. I want to show you today, not to go too deep, but just a very simple breath you can do every day if you want, preferably every day, because I want to really say what's happening now is the cosmic creativity is just so intense. And those of us specifically who are here as the activators or the channelers or the antennas for these rays, so it's the outside in energy, and us as inside out, that's how it operates and creates this fusion of the source alchemy or cosmic ascension alchemy. So for us to be more and more into the new bodies, we have to really allow the body to speak on its own. So looking sometimes at the database of all that is with us, let's say I use an example of hair loss, okay? So use all the different reasons that are known to us just physically, without looking into the dimensionality of something more mystical that also interpenetrates this reality, because we're operating within it with a huge portion of our consciousness. And those of us who are volunteer souls, we have a vaster portion of our consciousness in the higher realms than here, but we're bringing in more and more here. So for us to imply or implement those dimensions just as well into our practice, into situations in life, we have to, you know, allow that what we say, well, the template of knowledge to alternate and be transcended, and to come into a larger format of what we might now perceive from this broader view. And it's very important for us as sorry as David Wilcock also shared from the Rainbow Teachings in Tibet, is they always tell you, you have to transcend two basic things, which is hope and fear. And I love that because it's so true. And people might always say, what, hope is a beautiful energy. Of course, when you're looking at it from the perspective of conditionality, when you're trapped in the third dimensional world, you're always hoping for something to change. You're always hoping for a better world. The world is never perfect. It's never good. It never suits you. There's always too little everything, too much of everything else. There's never balance. There's always polarity playing itself out, like endless this. So hope exists because hope is something you say, I'm hoping for this to change. I'm hoping life to show me another path, or I'm hoping to become someone else, or I'm hoping in next life I get it better. In the transcendental higher realms, when you transcend that, there is no hope, because your now is always perfect in each moment. Even when there's something you had, a negative experience, actually served as a catalyst for an expansion of consciousness. It's how it is. Even if you have an angry moment, that moment perhaps utilized an expression of that burst of energy that needed to come out. So hope is the past energy, because you're always living in the past and always projecting to the future. Sorry, you're always living in the future, while fear is the projection of the past, because you're always living in what was and taking that onward into your life where you're now, and always living in that past perception. You're truly not living in the past, you're always in the now, but your mind always takes you somewhere backwards, so you can't really experience the blissfulness of the now. And this is why life force mastery continuously eludes you. So I love this saying, transcending hope, which is the future, and transcending fear, which is the past. And the easiest way to tune yourself into this now is to just feel the pulsation of your life. Sometimes just take a little notice if your pulse is still here and say, wow, I'm alive. You know, like Sadhguru, he always says, when you wake up in the morning, you say, I'm still alive. Thank you. I'm so grateful. You know, I woke up. It's a miracle. We don't see things as miraculous anymore because we take life for granted. Third dimension is so dense, and even though we take it for granted, although it's just granite, get it? A piece of granite, piece of rock. And that was really funny. But anyway, guys, I want to say that it's very important to just feel what it means to truly be alive, to thrive in the moment, not just do things. And we get so sometimes hyperactive. But there is a difference between beings who are constantly creating and beings who can't create through their soul because they're so trapped in the system, in the matrix. They're always being the servants of that system. They're always serving the system instead of serving life and creation to expand and evolve, because they haven't learned otherwise. Maybe don't even believe in otherwise, that there is more to life unless they're finally ready to awaken. But those of us who are maybe hyperactive with so much creativity because we're already in the creative essence of the soul, and that's the realm of the soul, no longer the personality, we are always creating. And even that, we have to balance that creativity, because sometimes even if there's so much energy coming through, you want to do it all instantly, which is something that I sometimes do. You will notice, again, you have to come back to the body. How can you align and adjust? Because that's basically living in the new fully, is constantly monitoring this, the precipitation of light and the physical experience of that light, so that you have well-being, you have bliss in your body, you experience joy. Sorry, there's an ant climbing on my camera. And there is this fusion of all of yourselves that all of these selves can express themselves, not just a dominant type you might develop in your personality, even if it's a spiritual part, even if it gets fanatic maybe. So all aspects of you, you know, when they're equally allowed to play and experience themselves. I had another dream today. I remember a while ago I told you I had a dream when I was dancing, but I felt so rigid and I couldn't. I felt like trapped. Well, today I had a dream when I danced for someone, and I don't think that someone paid attention, but it didn't matter. And I was dancing and I was so attuned to the music or the rhythm. I had all these different moves. I was good. I'm like, wow. And when I woke up, it was such a good feeling of that. It was a completely different essence, that which felt like, oh, I can't move, right? It's so dense and solidified. And in this dream, it felt like, wow, it's like I'm one with the music. I am the music, not just one with it. And that's what these teachings of the Tibetan monks, they say, well, at a certain level, you become one with the universe. And then another level, when you transcend that, you are the universe itself. So that's when you become a co-creator with life, a compassionate witness, and yet a source of endless creativity. And the only thing that we're still kind of having challenges is when we're still in form is we may get overloaded with that creativity. So, while on the other hand, there's beings who are still experiencing a lack of that because they're so tuned into this matrix, we're sometimes exploding. And we're like a supernova that just implodes in order to send aspects of new life forth again in consciousness. So either way, the extremes are not good for our well-being in the physical. So I'm going to show you a very simple exercise you can do. I'm not sitting properly right now. Just take a lotus yoga position. And what you want to do first, just really get comfortable in your body. And the first aspect of this breath is what I call recharging. And it's the very simple breath, you know, when you do the quick breaths, right? You probably know that. And you take a breath and you pull the belly out and then contract in. And you do that very fast so that you can feel like almost like your heart is being strengthened through that pulse. You're giving your life and your physical, you're giving it the pulse through the physical nature of it. So you do a few of those. You don't have to do like this. You can put your hands like this, just rest. You will notice the nostrils get kind of supercharged. Sometimes it gets hard, and when it gets hard, just let go. And when you close your eyes, this is what I experienced today. You might get a bit dizzy because so much energy comes in. You might see spirals. This is what I usually see. It's like lots of energy just moving because you're moving into this sphere of intensified movement of life. So you're rebirthing yourself and you're giving the boost to your body, your whole system. Especially revitalizing the lungs and the rest of the whole breathing apparatus and the whole of the body when you send the energy through the whole body. So the next part is that prospect. Then we do the normal breath of life cultivation, which, as you know, you can put your hand on your belly, and with the in-breath you expand your belly out and raise your lungs, and with the out-breath, from the perineum point, from the very down point of your base chakra, you release the energy up. So you push it up with your out breath. It's always the same. So we do and then I do send it up, and then you can feel it precipitating through your aura. At this point, if you want, you can use the aura spray. Just kidding, guys. And then just feel it pouring through you, like recharging your whole aura. And again, take a deep breath again into your base. Expand and contract by pulling the breath up. Channel it through all the channels so that you awaken all your meridians, so that your meridians have the ability to always be infused with new light. Because remember, there's always new light coming in. You're constantly revitalizing yourself. So it's very simple. You can do that if you want more advanced practices, which are also part of the My Life Force Mastery courses and Cosmic Union courses, which is very practically oriented. You can do that. But I want to say that the miracle we're doing here, especially those of us who are creating these new body prototypes first, is we're not like dying and then saying, oh, and then I'm creating a new body through birth, physical birth. But we're birthing a new body within this currently existing template of the body we're having now. So this is quite a process. And for a lot of us, a lot of energy went into the creation of this process and this template, which now maybe left us a bit depleted. Some of us might feel tired. That's how the guidance came through. We all feel it in our own way. So for me, no more procrastination. It's time for a life force mastery devotion and this path of further commitment, and it's what's happening. Check all the links down below. Thank you for watching. There's always so much more to talk about when it's the topic of what makes us truly live in the new. But remember, be compassionate, be in your heart. See everything, every event as I'm not talking about this versus like the old versus the new, but just to feel into the blending, because we're all at the bridge point right now. Doesn't mean you do something you would perceive as, oh, that was so old, now I'm not in the new. No. You observe that you witness yourself within it, and then you can expand with that and use this breath of life to help cultivate the energy and to release stagnant energy, as well as a lot of us, specifically women, because women were so enslaved in a way. You know, they were not allowed to truly be themselves on this planet within this existing patriarchal or distorted masculine society, or the whole world at large, matrix grid. There was a lot of trapped energy in this creative area, the area of the womb and the hips. So with the right breathing techniques, and this is why I love also to do tantric yoga cultivation, because it just relaxes and opens up this area completely. For those of you who want a very simple tuning in, I also created a cosmic dance for the Galactic Human course, which is over 3 hours long, and it's the minimum price I could imagine. I think it's the same price as the aura spray. So anyway, guys, there's so much available to us, so much at their disposal, not disposable, I hope, at this time. And this is where we are. I hope you will have a beautiful spring, reawakening, re-emerging of the new. I'm sitting in a very beautiful spot. I'm going to show you that later, and I'll talk to you again next time in the next update, whenever, always in divine timing, with love, wisdom, and power. Take care. So many blessings of the light and divine love. So anyway, I was just doing life force yoga, and I did my final exercise where I pulled sound into my womb, and I had this thought that the word womb and Om are basically the same. It's like the same word. Have you ever thought about that? It's where all life and creation comes from. It's so beautiful. I wanted to also say for the conclusion of this video that, as the beautiful mystic said with his simple words, it's not what the prophecy brings or what the, let's say someone has a vision of your future, whatever it is, astrology, readings, it's whether that brings fulfillment or not, and most of the time it doesn't. So living in the new is about that inner fulfillment, regardless of that external state, whatever it is. Even when we talk about things such the event, the solar sneeze, or the event, the cosmic event, it's still about whether we are aligned with that and how we are aligned with that through our own consciousness, so that the inner light technology, which is our spirit technology, and I call it life force mastery, really brings about that shift and that deep melding into unity, which is what yoga is. It's the cultivation of cosmic bliss, and all else that is of external nature simply transpires. So, my beloveds, transcend hope and fear, and replacing that perfectionism and doing things right with doing things in an organic manner, so that we move from observing the self to witnessing the self, becoming the self, and then melting as one with all life, becoming all life, not just the self, but the feeling the essence of all life. So you're looking at the sun, you're becoming the liquid light essence, as I feel when I do my life force yoga. And so I greet you in this beautiful awareness, and remember, yoga is not the kind of practice you do, it's the way you do it. For me, sometimes it's yoga, sometimes it's running. I mean, yoga is an exercises, such as postures, asanas. And some of them are the ones that I invent myself. I invent the kind of exercise that align with my own unique being. They're not, you know, the way I think they should be done. It's more organic to the alignment with my body. So as you're looking at these beautiful solar rays emanating out, remember that you are the gift of life. So that all the blessings that you receive are the reflection of the blessings you are giving. You're showering life with as the essence of life itself. I wish you so much magic in divine union, and so it is.
Magical.